management consult is 23%, and others is 2%. Okay. So, so somebody in the question asked, Prakhar asked, so will AI disrupt IB too? AI will not disrupt IB, but so machine will not replace man, but machine will replace man who does not know how to use the machine. So if anything, AI or AR or GPTs of the world will help you be more efficient and help you eliminate redundancy. Uh, right. A lot of you have very interesting questions in the chat saying that what exactly does a management consultant do, or is CFA needed, or what exactly is venture capital or private equity. So allow me to, introduce the conversation of today, which is about IB versus PE versus VC versus management consulting. And, allow me to introduce the first panelist to you. He's an investment banker and he comes with a rich experience of, working in IB with Ambit. And he is also an All India rank 46. So Shabd, if you could please introduce Henil Furia to, the live video. Great. So we have Henel with us right now, and excellent. Our next panelist is an investment professional at CVC and a former BCG consultant, also All India rank 4. Allow me to please introduce Zia Nath to the conversation.
Hi,
Yes,
everyone.
Shabd, if you could. Yeah, thanks. Hi, Zia. And our next panelist is also an investment analyst at Pravega Ventures and is also the co-founder of 1949. Please welcome Srinidhi. And our fourth panelist is with Bain and Company and All India rank 28. Please welcome Anirudh Ramesh to the conversation, ladies and gentlemen. We'll just give another 30 seconds for everyone to be able to see everyone. Shabd, if you could also put Anirudh and Srinidhi on spotlight. Great. Just drop. Just drop a text on the chat box if all of you can see and hear us clearly, and if all of us could do a quick mic check. Henel, Zia, Srinidhi, Anirudh.
Hi.
You can all hear me. You can all.
Yeah.
You can all. Henel, Srinidhi, Zia, and Anirudh. Well, everyone in the audience, all fine, all good.
Yeah. I think I can hear everybody too.
Excellent. Fantastic. Great. Excellent. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks everyone in the audience. I am extremely excited to be here because, a question which, Kushal and I get on a day-to-day basis is that, how do we get into IB or PE or VC? And I have had the privilege to spend close to about half a decade in front end commercial, corporate, and institutional banking, and I've also spent some time in private equity lending. But today is not about that. Today, we're hearing it from the horse's mouth. Chartered accountants who have made successful into this field, and how do they how do they make the cut? What is next for them, and how do we learn from their experience, and how can they help you? get into these fields, sustain in these fields, and grow in these fields. So I think there's a bit of a video lag. Some of you messaged me. Can everybody else see me? Henel, Zia, Srinidhi, and Anirudh, can you all see me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can
Very, very good.
Perfectly
It's all
well.
good, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Great. Excellent. So quickly, I mean, while I've introduced the panelists, the audience would, really love to hear from them. So maybe in the order of Henel, Zia, Srinidhi, and Anirudh, if you could just quickly introduce yourselves for everybody in the audience.
Yeah, sure. So good morning, everyone. I am Hilal Surya, and I am a chartered accountant from the July 2021 batch. And I've been fortunate enough to get all India ranks at all the three levels of the CA course. And I've also cleared all the three levels of CFA. And I've done my bachelor's in commerce from HR College of Commerce and Economics. So this was a brief on my academic background. Now moving on to my professional work experience. After clearing my CA, I've been associated with Ambit in their investment banking team as in their corporate finance department. And I have worked in the BFSI sector, banking, financial services, and insurance sector, as well as the industrial and automotive sector for Ambit. So it's been a journey of around 2 years, 3 months up to now here at Ambit. Yeah. Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Henel. Zia.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Zia. I'm also chartered accountant. I had near 4 in CA final, and I started my professional journey with BCG and was there for 1.5 years, and then I moved on to finance. I'm currently working as an analyst in CVC Capital, and it's sort of a sector agnostic role, so I cannot say I'm associated with any of the industries right now. And apart from work, I've just developed a new liking for water. So I love to surf, I love to scuba. And that's where you'll find me on a vacation. That's about me. Over to Srinidhi.
Thanks, yeah. Okay, hi everyone. I am Srinidhi Chari, again a CA, graduated in December 2021. I've worked in a startup for around a year based out of Bombay that raised its seed round, post which I've had a short stint in CRISIL. I've been with Pravega for over a year and a half now, fairly looking at the whole fintech space. I'm also a co-founder of a company called 1949. I don't know how many of you have heard about it, but 1949 is a platform for CAs and IBVCs and Ps. And yeah, that's about me.
Thanks, really. I'll probably go next. Yeah, thank you. Hey everyone, I hope I'm audible. My name is Anirudh. I qualified in the November 2020 attempt. I did my bachelor's from Christ University in Bangalore. Did my articleship in Deloitte. Did a very brief stint with Flipkart, very interestingly post qualification, and then moved to Bain. Been about 2.5 years in consulting in front office right now, and it's been a great roller coaster ride. We'll delve into that deeper. But I mean, again, more than happy to take up any questions at any point of time. Do shoot them across on the chat. But that's largely my introduction. Manraj, over to you.
I think
I guess he's saying, Anirudh, you have to host the show now.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, can do that, definitely. I'll just give him a minute or so to confirm that.
Back to the old days.
Yeah. Shabd, any idea if Manraj has lost connectivity?
Yeah, he's joining. So sorry.
Okay, no worries.
We can take up any questions if you guys have in the meantime.
I mean, I think while we wait for Manraj to join back in, just taking one question that I saw on the chat, which was about doing articleship from a mid-sized firm but getting into consulting. Absolutely possible. I work with people at Bain who have done articleships from mid-sized firms and don't have a rank and have gotten into Bain and have killed it. I'm talking about early promotes at 2 levels, 3 levels, and are really doing great at their role. The one thing that you need to stand out is a stellar profile. Very simply put, your academics are just one part of your resume. You need your extracurriculars from college, any positions of responsibility that you've done during college, outside of that, to really stand out for it to come through. So that really matters. We'll deep dive into that later. But that's a brief uh, on just mid-sized articleship plus getting into consulting. Um, Manuraj, back to you. Just taking up a question considering you're facing some connectivity issues.
Hi guys, I'm so sorry. I think there was a bit of a situation with my internet, so I've joined another connection now. Can you all hear and see me?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Sorry, we're just gonna get started again. And the first question that I have for all the panelists is, starting with Henel, Zia, Srinadi, and Anirudh in the order that I want I want to learn a little bit about your CA journey. That how did you decide that taking you back a couple of years, half a decade, that I want to pursue my CA, and when you were pursuing your CA, did you know that what is it that you want to do, and what are the struggles that you faced, and what are the challenges that you overcame?
Yeah, sure. So basically, if I deep dive into my schooling days, I was sure enough that science as a career would not work out with me. So I'd chosen commerce, commercial studies, which was an optional subject at that time, into my ninth standard. And that gave a foundation into my accounting journey. So in the ninth and tenth standard itself, I was like tallying balance sheets and all of those stuff. So starting from there, my CA journey took off. Then we went on to NM College in 11th and 12th, and there is where I gained my interest into the Chartered Accountancy course. Following my role models who are heavy industry people is like Piyush Goyal and everyone. Like I found my interest into CA, and also number crunching is something which I love. So that is where CA as a journey came into it. And if you talk about difficulties, challenges which I faced during my career, there were a lot of difficulties which I faced. But to number it out, there was something like I had a huge amount of spectacles in my eye. So the power of spectacles was 10 and 11. So I got it removed by LASIK. So that was something which was a very difficult time, and I overcame it through my studies, through my career, through my CA course. Secondly, playing sports is my hobby. I love to play all type of sports like cricket, badminton, volleyball. I had to sacrifice sporting for around 2 to 3 years of my CA final journey, and that is where these sacrifices and challenges came up. So yeah, that's about it.
Great. Sia, can we hear from you?
Yeah. So my my story is slightly different. Like I didn't want to get into commerce on the onset. Like I started off like in my school, I loved just one subject, and that was math, right? And I thought I'll get math and science, I'll get it in commerce, and my sister was into commerce, so like I just follow where she goes, right? That's what I've been doing since childhood. So I just took up commerce, and then so I'm from Udaipur, and in Udaipur you'll see like a small town in Rajasthan, and in such towns you'll see that people are not very aware about the lot of career opportunities you have, right? So CA was the thing there, and everyone was doing a chart. Thought maybe I'll just give it a try, and that's I think how my CA career started. And after that, I just moved out to Bombay for my articleship in video, and then that's where I faced a few challenges where I had to take a decision. Like I was into M&A taxation, and the decision in front of me was whether I just jump on to say EY audit or something like that, or should I go to a smaller size firm, mid-size firm? What should I do with my life, right? So I took a call then and there, and that answers one of the questions also. I jumped on to a small size firm, not even a mid-size firm, right? So I came back to Udaipur. I did my 2 years of articleship in a very small firm and studied alongside. And that's how I think that decision helped me in two ways. One, because like people sort of are reluctant to hire from taxation roles, right? Because taxation roles give you very deep knowledge about that role, but not about what's going on in other businesses, right? That's sort of helpful from audit. I'm not saying you cannot do it. I'm just saying the people are sort of reluctant. Like it's difficult to switch roles. And the second thing it helped me with was to focus on my studies. So I think that was one decision I made in life, and I don't regret it at all. And that's about my CA journey.
Excellent. And I think that's a question that, a lot of people in the audience will have, that do you pick a generalist track? Do you pick a specialist track? And how do you decide on your articleship? Like you said, you picked a small size firm, not even a mid-size firm. So how is it that you make the choice, and how is it, that these choices will shape your career and the future choices that you make? So excellent. Thank you for that answer. Srinidhi?
Mine is a little dumb, but I started CA because my brother was CA. He's 3 years older to me, and he was doing CA, and I'm like, okay, this sounds like a great option. I should do it. So I think started out as a dumb little fact that, just you look up to somebody and you start it like that.
Right.
Turned out to be my own different journey, and it was definitely an experience, right? I think I was right after the whole COVID wave. I'm not somebody who cleared in the first attempt, because I gave my paper, I gave the first group, and then during the second group, during DT, I had COVID. So I couldn't give the second group. And then I had to re-attempt it in the next group. So it was definitely an experience. I feel like CA comes with its own troubles, and I'm sure all of us can bond over it and become best of friends just talking about its troubles. But yeah, it's definitely been a journey. It's been it's been an up and down. But yeah,
I think getting into CA because somebody else was doing CA in your family, I think that's one of the most popular reasons, by the way.
I know.
A lot of us, want to probably look at what, people in our family are doing, and we see that, they've done decent, so you want to sort of follow their footsteps, and it's just easier with the guidance. I think it's a very popular answer.
Yep.
And Anirudh, can we hear from you?
Sure, Manraj. I think mine's very different from everybody on the panel. I had no plans of doing CA. It happened by, I would say, not luck, but by chance. So I went to Christ for my undergrad, got into a course which was BCom with CA, and was kind of forced to write my CPT. Post which I realized, okay, this is not a bad option to continue with, and that led to my intermediate, and then got really serious, got into articleship at Deloitte, and then realized that okay, this is something that I don't mind doing, or I really enjoy doing as well, and that's how it started. So an accidental CA is what I would call myself, because I had zero intention growing up, nor had any idea what I wanted to do. So when someone told me that you're decently good at math, why don't you try it out? Um, that's literally how it happened, right? And there are a bunch of people out there, or even on this call today, who would not have envisioned starting the course, but are really glad to have finished it. And personally speaking, from my own experience, I definitely recommend people who aren't really sure, and they think they want to try out something, to at least start giving the CPT course, for that matter, like when you start off, right? So in hindsight, everything's worked out really well. I'm super thankful. But the only point I want to land here is that it's completely okay to not be sure of what you want to do at any point in life. I know people have certainty and they expect certainty, but it's completely okay to not be certain even after you finish your exams. And as of today, with the audience that we have who want to understand the different options, everybody is super confused, and you're expected to be. If you're someone who's probably cracked that already, then you're at the top 1 percentile of all the CAs who've cleared. And so who actually forms a part of the remaining 99 percentile, right? So we are here to break down all the myths today, and we're happy to cover everything. If you're confused, definitely stay and listen on, is what I would ask.
Right. So I think, friends in the audience, if you see a book coming out anytime soon, The Accidental CA, so it'll be by Anirudh, and I will request him to allow me to write the foreword for the book. But jokes aside, by the way, I also went to Christ. So were you on the Hosu Road campus?
I was, yes.
You were in the second block. I was in the Birds Park block.
I was in block 4.
Oh, you were in block 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Good stuff. All right, so let's get more granular with the discussion, and that's what our audience is waiting to hear from all of you. So starting with you, Zia, how is it that you started your interview prep to become an investment professional, and what are the kind of courses or modules or reading material that you pursued? What are the kind of interactions you had with people from the industry or from other industries, and how did you arrive at this specific decision that you want to be an investment professional with the CVC, especially that you've done Mancom before you were BCG, and then you decided to do this. So what was that decisioning point or that tipping point that I want to foray into this industry, and this is sort of my mojo per se. So how did you get into that?
Okay, thanks for asking. So, this all started when I joined BCG, and it was, I think, the second month or third month of BCG when I was doing a due diligence, commercial due diligence for one of the banks, and that's when I sort of came to understand what all this industry is, right? What these guys actually do when they look at an investment, how do they diligence that, right? So that's what got me started and started thinking that maybe this is something I want to do because it's a very intense thing you're doing, but it's like the steepest learning curve you can have over a duration of 1 month. And so in 1 month you understand the industry, you understand the company, everything about it, right? So that got me started thinking that maybe I want to do something like that. It's just the diligence part, right? And then over time, I I looked at a few opportunities. There was VC, there was PE, and what to get into. So I had a few seniors at BCG who had gotten into PE. Right. So I talked to them. I try to understand how do you get into that, and then you just reach out to headhunters. It's very simple. You just reach out to headhunters, and they'll tell you about the opportunities out there in the market. And all you have to do is prep for the interviews that are coming up, right? So the way I prepped for it was because, see, in management consulting, you don't really get to make a lot of financial models. You don't do a lot of financial stuff, right? So you have to take classes for that. So that's what I did. I watched some videos on YouTube. I thought that this is helpful. I can take a class. I took one of the like a very simple modeling classes, right? I don't even remember. I think it was YouTube only or some other forum where I took like 4 5 hours of modeling classes because every PE fund would have a modeling session as well along with other interviews. So these guys usually end up having like 6 7 interviews. You interview with the full team in most of the cases because the full team is like 8 to 10 people, right? So that's so the one part which I prepped the most for was financial concepts because see we are CAs, we all have very good financial foundation, right? So it's not a difficult task. It's just that you have to mold everything into like you just have to brush it up. And then for the case interview preparations, so it's sort of similar to what you have at management consulting. And that's where the management consulting prep came useful because for BCG you actually get 1 month of prep time for the interviews, right? So it's very similar. Like in the PE funds also, it's very similar. The kind of case studies that they have. It's just that it's more focused on the financial outcomes rather than the operational outcomes that consulting folks are interested in. So, so broadly, I think that's about my preparation for PE funds. I think that was the question, right?
Got it. Got it. Thanks a lot. So I'm just going to take a step back and talk about your time at BCG. But before I do that, I'd like to hear from you, Zia, and then from you, Anirudh, that, what exactly does a management consultant do? What is a management consulting firm? And what is the long-term horizon that a firm pursues and the kind of activities that fall under its ambit?
Okay, so maybe I'll just take it up and Anirudh, you can add to it. So what management consultants do, that's a very interesting question. And it's not a one-line answer, I would say, because management consultants do a lot of things. And if I have to like bucket it, I would say there are, I don't know, I can bucket into 4 5 things. But okay, broadly what I've done, I'll just talk about what I've done. So there are two things that you can do. Either you work for financial investors, with them diligence their investments. That is a huge chunk of I think Bain, and not as big, but a significant chunk of BCG as well. and that's commercial due diligence. And that you can diligence any industry, any company, for whatever they ask for, right? And then there's a second part to it, and the second part is helping out the companies that are out there in the market for whatever problem that they are facing, right? So usually what companies don't want to do is they don't want to hire high paid roles, like people at higher paid roles for their strategy team. So they might just outsource it to a consulting firm, whether they are going to fire someone, whether they want to rationalize the costs, whether they want to launch a new product, whether they want to go into a completely new vertical. So then they'll hire consultants to either strategize that or to get it into action, like implement everything that they have strategized for. And I think that's what consultants do. I think that was the first question. And the second question was, where does this career lead you to, right? So I feel that this is the most versatile career you can be in because the exit opportunities are infinite. You can get into IB after that, you can get into PE after that, you can get into startups out of that. After that, you can get into large corporates, right? So a few of my colleagues have gotten into, say, Google, a strategy role at Google, product manager at Google, and then there are people who get into strategy roles at, say, pharma companies, large pharma companies. So the exit opportunities are infinite, and it's not just about the exit opportunities. You also have uh, growth inside the firm, right? So if you stay there for like, so the average time for becoming an MDP, like the managing director partner in BCG, would be like 11-12 years or something like that. And after 11-12 years, you're not an employee of the firm, but you're actually like an entrepreneur, right? Because you're getting your own clients, you're making money out of it. So you're not working for anyone, you are now working for yourself. So I think that's about the career. And over to Anirudh.
Got it. Thanks, Zia. And Anirudh, just to
Thanks,
quickly
Zia.
hear.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Zia summed it up perfectly well. But if I had to just summarize the role in one line, I'd probably mention that it's helping really scale companies scale more or implement different items that they always want to get in, right? For example, you directly work with CXOs, could be the CEO, the CFO, the CEO for that matter, and they have a particular vision in mind. And you as a consultant help implement that, or you could either help them build the strategy from scratch, tell them that this is where the company could get into, or could be in, let's say, 5, 10 years. And the second part is actually helping them implement the same. Right? So typically consultants, if you look at the firms that hire CAs or are in the market today, you have the MBB firms, which is McKinsey, BCG, Bain. These are largely strategic consultants who help, again, the CXO layer make decisions, lay out a roadmap of where the company should be in the next in the medium to long term, and you also do some sort of implementation. The second layer are the big four firms who also have consulting arms, who help you do a lot more operational or implementation heavy cases. So while maybe an MBB firm lays out the strategic roadmap, a big four might come and implement it. Right? Alternatively, what we've also seen is MBB firms taking up more implementation cases in the last few years. The third aspect are more boutique consulting firms who are maybe sector specific. So while MPP is Big Four, the sector agnostic in the sense that they operate across all sectors and have practices across, for example, tech, financial services, industrial goods, and people are also generally not tagged to a particular sector. These specific sector specific firms could be either pharma focused or financial services focused, and people who enter these firms tend to grow only in one particular sector. So if you're someone who's inclined towards one particular field, and for whatever reason it could be financial services, you might be better off choosing a boutique firm versus a brand name for the sake of it. But if you truly think that you're a generalist and you want to explore multiple sectors, maybe a Big Four or an MBB might be the better choice. Um, I'll just take a couple of examples from my experience as well. And to add to what Zia said, two major buckets. One is the commercial due diligence bucket, where, for example, a consultant works with a private equity firm who is looking at a particular asset. I mean, for example, this could be helping. I'll just take CVC's example. Right? CVC invested in Gujarat Titans a couple of years back. A consulting firm might have helped them. I have no idea what the history, what the past has been, could have helped them diligence the Gujarat Titans team and understand commercially if it's viable or not. While the private equity firm does all financial diligences from their side, involves maybe bankers as well. a consultant provides a sign off for the commercial aspect. Right? Is this asset worth looking at from everything outside the financial lens also? Right? And secondly, you're looking at maybe other all other industries, for example, tech, healthcare, and so on, where you're looking at helping them create a strategic roadmap and helping implement that as well. So that's briefly what we do. Again, more than happy to deep dive into anything further as and
Got
when
it.
needed.
Right. So thanks a lot. I think that's very well put by both Zia and Anirudh. And basically what they're trying to say, and just to summarize, is that management consultants are problem solvers. They receive a problem for a company or a client that they're consulting. They try to structure it, break it down into simpler aspects, and identify variables with which they can play or move in order to deliver a solution to that problem. That problem could be pertaining to due diligence. It could be a profitability, an M&A, a market entry, or go-to-market GTM strategy. It could be expansion. It could be shutting down a line of business. It could be an operations. So it's very akin to just solving a fundamental problem that a company has. And the problem statement, ladies and gentlemen, could be as simple as my profits have gone down by 20% over the last 1 year. Help me analyze. And how do I get back to increasing my profits, coming back at par with where I was, or rather start growing. So it's a simple profitability problem. So you can analyze the P&L, you can understand how's the industry doing, you can analyze the category, you can analyze the segment, the geography, the market, the product, you could do a market service. So there's a whole bunch of things that these management consultants do in essentially trying to solve the problem for the client. And I think structured approach, the ability to take complex things and break it down into simpler aspects, identifying simple variables that you can input to get an output that you want. Very similar to coding. I've not done coding, but I'm assuming that's how coding works. And so, these are some of the fundamental things that management consultants do. And I think a lot of people in the chat box have been asking, how do you get into management consulting? How do you prepare for it? And who is this meant for? But I will come back to that shortly after I speak with Henil. So Henil, if you could just, quickly guide the audience in understanding what is investment banking and who is investment banking for.
Sure. So basically, investment banking basically helps companies raise private equity funds or undertake mergers and acquisitions. Broadly, breaking it up into two major brackets, there are two types of roles which a investment banker generally does. So, firstly, it is a corporate finance role, or secondly, it's an equity capital markets role. This is an ECM role. So moving on to the corporate finance role, they are broadly categorized into one or two major activities which they do. So one activity which I mentioned is a private equity fundraise, and the second activity which a investment banker does in the corporate finance domain is mergers and acquisitions. Now moving on to the ECM role, it's basically process driven, and they normally look after public issues. So basically, there are IPOs, there are buybacks, there are rights issues which are done by companies. So the ECM, Equity Capital Markets team, looks after all these things. Now, broadly focusing on the private equity and the mergers and acquisitions, these are the main lucrative areas for an investment banker. And what is the task of a day-to-day investment banker is generally like, say, for example, there's a company based out of Central India. It's an NBFC. It wants to raise some private equity funds. So basically, that company will hire an investment bank. For example, say it has hired Ambit. So Ambit will undertake the whole research of the industry, understand the company, have promoter meetings, and then prepare a proper PowerPoint presentation of the entire company. Basically, it's called an IM. It's an information memorandum, which covers the entire company's overview. Like it covers the business overview, it covers their financials, it covers their products, services, industry research, etc., etc. So it's a various discussion document for the entire company. Second major task is to prepare financial models, which is projections of the financials of the company for the next 5 to 7 years, and then understand how the projections can be dwelled into a valuation of that company. Valuations are also normally done into two ways. Like there might be intrinsic ways of valuation of these, and there might be relative ways of valuation. So normally, the broader task which investment bankers do is preparing a PowerPoint presentation, which is the IM, and preparing the financial model, which are projections and the valuations of that company, and then negotiating the deal and closing the deal. So investment bankers only receive their money when a deal is closed. So there might be cases wherein we work on the entire project and like we do not get any money because the deal is not closed at the end of like maybe it can be stuck by some competitive authority, say CCI blocked the deal, or say maybe the buyer doesn't want to carry off that deal. So there might be certain circumstances in the end wherein the deal cannot go through. But normally, let's say 75-80% of the time, the deal goes through, and it's a very good learning curve when you get to know a full deal from start to the end. So that's what an investment bank generally does.
Great. I think, thank you so much. That's a very granular answer, and that really helps the audience. And Henel, just a follow-up question from you: that how do CA freshers who want to get into investment banking, how do they build their resume, or what are the key skills that they can acquire, or how can they position
Hmm.
themselves to get interview calls from investment banking firms?
Sure, sure. So see, basically, to deep dive into this question, I need to make the wider audience understand two broader aspects for an investment banker role. So basically, investment banking jobs are basically divided into two broader aspects. One is the front end role, and one is the mid end role. So basically, if you talk about JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, these are bulge bracket investment banks. And normally, CA freshers can get into that only for a mid end role. So what is a mid end role? It's a role wherein you do not directly engage with the client, but you engage with the front office, which is based out of their foreign clients. So basically, you assist the JP Morgan's US team, or you assist the JP Morgan Singapore team in undertaking that deal. So you don't work with the client directly. You work with the Singapore team of JP Morgan itself. You help them make collaterals for the deal. You help them make models. You help them make IM, but you don't engage with the client. So that is an opening for CA freshers, for JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, or etc. Some of the bulge bracket investment banks in the mid and role. Now moving on to the front end investment banks, which are domestic banks. Some of them are Avendus, GM Financial, Ambit, Kotak Investment Banking. You might have heard about all these names. So they also hire CA freshers depending on their skills. So basically, now broadly categorizing the skills which you require for an investment banking role are, say, if you don't get a big four articleship, if you don't have, say, a rank, so it's easy for you to get into investment bank. It's not like you need a rank or you need a big four experience to get in an investment bank. So one major thing which I would advise is, say you guys have done your articleship, but if you would have not have completed it, do an industrial training experience. That helps a lot. Secondly, try out some courses like financial modeling courses, or there are various courses by Damodaran. Then there are courses by the Wall Street Ways. To try and understand those courses, make your hands-on on PowerPoint presentation, because that is a skill which is of utmost demand on the industry. So be it PowerPoint or be it Excel, MS Office is a backbone of the IT industry. So normally, how does an interview scheduled is like you reach out to people, you reach out to clients, or there may be off-campus hiring as well. So normally, I got this Ambit to the off-campus hiring which was done by Ambit. You get to know about it on LinkedIn openings. Even there, I guess, even right now, I guess there's an opening at Ambit. There are opportunities that come out on LinkedIn. There are opportunities which come out on JP Morgan Careers Portal. If you go through that, there's a specific role for an investment bank, which is called CRP CIB role, which is a centralized research group, corporate and investment bank, corporate and institutional investment banking role, which is available on the careers portal of JP Morgan. If you go through it, then to pass through the test, there are three types of like rounds which are normally taken. First is an normal MCQ or a test round, which is basically testing you out on a SFM related knowledge, your equity valuation, enterprise valuation skills. Basically, it's an MCQ test, which normally everyone clears. It's like a screener for the audience. Second test is the main test, which wherein you have to prepare. They give you a name of a company. Say, for example, they give you any pharma company, say Sun Pharma. You prepare an entire presentation on that company. You prepare the industry overview, prepare the business overview. You mention about the products, you mention about the services, you mention about the financials, and then come on to the valuation. So the entire PowerPoint presentation you have to prepare for this company. So that is a major task which you need to prepare, and there is where the major screening happens. Thirdly, there's a technical interview which in which normal questions are asked about, like beta, what is beta, what is CAPM model, what is enterprise valuation, what is equity valuation, what is the risk-free rate right now in India. So maybe they will test you on the practical knowledge skills as well. You need to be aware about the deals that are happening in the market right now. Say, for example, the Solisi merger which was going to happen, why it did not happen. Say, for example, there was some Poonawalla housing finance deal which was ongoing in the market. You need to have a clear idea of the deal. You need to understand what was the deal value. You need to understand the percentage stake given. So I would suggest read about one or two leads of your interest and then give a crack on those. So yeah, that's about it.
Got it. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Henel. And I'm very inclined to ask you that, our audience would want to know what is the mark. You mentioned CIB, corporate and investment banking team at Ambit. So I'm very inclined to ask you the difference between corporate and investment banking, but I'm going to hold you onto that. Coming to Srinidhi quickly and asking that, what is a VC firm? What is venture capital? Very, very fundamental question for all the students in the audience. And then I'll get back to you, Henel, on the difference between CB and IB.
ठीक है. So let's start with एकदम basic. You're right. What is venture capital? Venture capital is, we're an investment firm. Venture capital are early stage investments, right? So you've got series of investments. Ps also invest. So your early stage investment, anywhere from like depends, pre-seed also, pre-seed, seed, series A and till series A, series B also sometimes. So this is basically anywhere from like $500,000 to maybe $10 million. So maybe a max up to like a 50, 80 crores of sorts. So any startup that requires an investment up to this range, that is where a VC comes in. So you put an early stage investment into a startup. So one thing with a startup versus a PE is that PE has a lot of data to sit upon, and it is very fundamental, right? You look at a lot of data, you analyze all of the data, you look at all of your competitors. VCs are extremely early. You enter into sometimes an ideation stage. You make bets on founders. Most of the times, maybe there are 3-4 players in the industry, and you have no idea if this market will work out or not. So definitely, there's maybe not actually there's not a lot of data to look into whenever you're doing like a VC investment. It's a lot of research and more of like understanding about your macros and understanding how the economy might move towards. Yes, so yeah, VC is definitely different than PE, but comes as like a level. It's within the same level. Yeah.
Got it. And what is the typical profile if a candidate in VC with whom you work, and not necessarily a fresher, it could be somebody who's a partner or at any level in the organization.
Right. So VC tends to be a little different from the rest of the, of course, consulting, either consulting, PE or IBs. They're more inclined to hire CAs. One reason why VCs don't hire CAs is the idea of networking. So the idea is that they prefer colleges which have more networks, right? Your SRCC or your IIMs or your IITs, because networking is a very core importance. Like you require networks to go ahead. And I think that is a reason why CAs are usually not hired. You usually see maybe 90% of the market is your either IITs or colleges that have great alumni networks. So not to say that there are not a lot of CAs. There are a lot of CAs, especially newer CAs who are entering this space. But the preference of the market is clearly into more of your other segments.
Got it. And then how did you stumble upon this opportunity, and how did you decide that, I want to be part of this VC organization?
Okay, so I come from a business family, proper ऐसा धंधा चलता है घर पे. So I've been brought up with the culture and values of doing a business someday. Since 18, I've done something or the other. I've had like a softy corner. I've had 2 franchisees of a restaurant. I've kept on dabbling into something because that's the exposure that I've always had, right? And I think, of course, pre-graduation also, I think VC was very interesting to me because you are going to understand the different startups that are out there and segments that you can invest in and spaces that are going to get bigger. I think it sounded very interesting to me as soon as while I was doing my C, and I knew this was a space that I wanted to be in because I am a person who wants to do something eventually down the line, and it's great to be in a place where you're investing into early stage startups. So yeah, I think the interest started from there. It was not an easy journey to get into a VC. I did apply to like a lot of places, and you do need a profile. If you do want to enter into a VC, you do need a profile that stands out in terms of networking. It doesn't matter what your I think it doesn't matter what you've studied more, and in more terms of who you know in this space. Like how many people do you know, how open you are, how well you are at conversing with people, how quickly you can make your networks, and your ability to be more than just a job, right? Your ability to build something. All those things I think matter more. So I think again, like Anirudh had mentioned, your what you study doesn't matter, more about what your extracurricular or other things that you adds up way more than even your CA degree.
Got it. And if you were to, draw a parallel between soft skills and networking vis-a-vis hard skills such as, crunching numbers or probably doing a financial due diligence or the ability to read an annual report and decipher that, uh, the asset quality is poor or, projecting 5 years of revenue. So how do you compare that versus this in a VC setting?
Okay, so it's a good big mix of both. So again, like I've seen, there are a lot of these IIT kids versus CA kids in this industry. One thing that we do stand apart is that I've seen like kids who don't know like what a working capital cycle is, which is ridiculous. For like us CAs, I'm like, dude, I have no, I know this. I'm like 11th grade. So there is definitely like we do require like a basic financial skill set that I feel like CAs already have. So you do need to know how to project. You need to have like an exit understanding. You need to understand macroeconomics a lot. You need to understand where the industry is going. You need to know how to read RBI regulations, especially if you're looking at specific sectors. You need to understand law. I feel like those skill sets are already embedded into CS for sure. Like, I don't think you need something over and above in terms of financial modeling and everything. It's something we can learn on the go. I don't feel like you need to do a course or anything like that. Something definitely you need to learn on the go. And this is something that we have a one up on the other peers. Like, I feel like this is why we might be chosen in this industry as compared to others. So this is something we have one up on the others. One thing that we definitely do need to work on is the whole networking part that I did say. But it's definitely a good 50-50 importance. Like, you do need to have as much as networks as you need to have like enough knowledge about the industry and about how like financial modeling, etc. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So I think being part of a VC firm is very akin to, being a business person, right? Your ability to identify the right opportunities to invest in and potentially grooming those opportunities. And you mentioned about the macroeconomic landscape, understanding what's happening in the industry, what's happening in the market, who are the marquee players. I think those things become fundamental in being a venture capitalist. And I think that also answers a lot of questions that, members of the audience had that what are the key skills that you need to get into VC? How do we break into VC? Does it require too much of knowledge about financial modeling and similar concepts?
So a
So
lot of data doesn't exist for financial modeling. So
right.
a lot of it is analysis on your own. Like, you make like a projection, how many users it can possibly be. The entire thing goes on a possibility, right? So there's not like a lot of data that exists.
Got it.
But financial modeling skills is still required. But yeah.
Got it. So I think all CAs, by and large, do possess an adequate amount of financial skills. So what you're saying is that on top of that, an additional layer of financial modeling capability may not necessarily be required, but your ability to grasp the industry and understand what's happening, the macroeconomic landscape. You said reading RBI regulations, right? It's very fundamental things, which people miss. You mentioned understanding what a working capital cycle is, right? So things of that sort. So I think thanks a lot. That's a very granular answer. And coming to Henil, I'm going to hold you back to that question, the marquee difference between CB and CIB.
Yeah. So basically, investment banking is a short-term relationship with the client. So basically, it dwells into private equity fundraising. Say if there's a promoter of a company who wants to sell off its company entirely, like he is into his late 80s and he does not have any children. He wants to sell off that company and monetize the money. So he'll reach out to an investment bank and ask him to reach out to strategic buyers or maybe financial buyers who can pay him a lump sum amount and take the company forward. So it's basically a short-term relationship, and it's majorly into private equity fundraising or share strategy sell-offs, mergers, acquisitions. Vis-a-vis, if I talk about a corporate banking scene, it's basically about a long-term relationship about with the client. It's more about treasury management. It's more about forex services. It's more about loans and lines of credit which are given out to clients, and it's more about structured finance things which comes into play. So the corporate banking thing is more on these sides, whereas the investment banking is a short-term relationship with the client, wherein you get a private equity fundraise or maybe help the promoter sell off its stake and you're done with it. So yeah,
Got it.
that answer.
Got it. Excellent. So I think I want to ask a question on behalf of everyone in the audience, and I think this is something which will really interest people. As a CA fresher, what is the expected salary that they can draw in each of your fields? So starting with Henel, where I want you to answer for both, and in fact, for all three: commercial banking, corporate banking, and investment banking. In fact, in investment banking, feel free to be as granular as you want. You can split it into ECM, DCM, M&A advisory. Same, Zia, what is expected of somebody who's getting into private equity? CA fresher, Srinidhi from you, venture capital, and Anirudh from you for a MBB consultant, and then maybe something like a Carney or Arthur D. Little, or a tier two consulting firm, and then getting into your big fours. So for a CA fresher, what are the ballparks?
Yeah, so starting on with the investment banking thing, basically the roles are majorly pre-divided into two different aspects, as I before mentioned. Some are mid-end roles, which are with a bulge bracket investment banks, basically like JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley, which are assisting a foreign office team of JP Morgan itself. Secondly, there are roles with a domestic investment bank, for example, like Ambit, Avendus, AGM Finance. So firstly, I'll talk about the bulge bracket investment banks, mid-end role. So basically, you can expect a fixed range of somewhere between 18 to 23 for a CA fresher, which is the fixed amount of the CTC. So normally, investment banking salary is more dependent on the variable component as you compare it with the fixed component. So basically, the amount of deals with the company has closed, the amount of deals which you personally close, the level of your involvement into the deal closure, that impacts a lot of money on your variable component. So in these bulge bracket investment banks, normally you can expect somewhere around 30 to 50% of your fixed component as the variable bonus. But when I come on to domestic investment banks, say for example like JP Morgan, like Ambit, Avendus, JM Financial, or Kotak, so they normally offer a starting range from around 10 to 15 lakhs per annum. And this is the fixed component. So the major gap which comes into play is the variable component. At a domestic front-end investment bank, you can expect as much as 100 to 150% of your fixed salary as bonus. So basically, if you are getting say 12 lakhs as a fixed salary, if you close a good number of deals this year, if your company in which you're working closed a good amount of deals this year and they exceeded their target, they'll pay you 100% or 150% of their fixed salary as bonus. So taking on the 12 fixed to 25, 26 on your total CTC. So that is one thing which you need to keep in mind, that investment banking is not generally about the fixed component. It's majorly about the variable component which you receive. But for the variable component, you need to stay with the company. Your tenure with the company matters a lot, as the variable payout does not happen month on month. It happens only after the year close. So say for example, the financial year is from April to March. You get the variable component at the end of June. So basically, it incentivizes you to stay in the company for a longer tenure. So those are the major salary expectations for students.
Got it. Got it. So you would say that a lot of, what you do is deal based, and a lot of what your
Correct.
incentives are driven by the kind of deals that you want to take. And the
Yes,
success of that deal will determine your variable pay.
correct, correct. So
And what
broadly, 100% of the fixed, normally 100 to 150%. It's
got
not
it.
more than 150. It's not less than, let's say, 80 or 90%. Normally, you get 100% if you do well. If
Right.
you are, say, an average person, you get 100%. Yeah.
Got it. And would you say that the numbers are similar in corporate and commercial banking?
So for a corporate or commercial banking, the numbers, the fixed component is somewhere around 16 to 20, but the variable component is less, as there is no incentivity on those lead closes. These are general day-to-day business lines. So these will generally occur. Like the probability of closing a corporate or a commercial deal is far higher than probability of closing a private equity fund deal or mergers and acquisitions. So therein the variable component is not much dependent. It's not much dependent. It's generally fixed, like it is around 20 to 25%, not of your fixed, not more than that. So say 16 to 20, and then you add on somewhere around 20 to 25% of fixed. That gives you of around 25 or 26 for the component of your total CTC for a corporate or a commercial banking role. So these higher numbers which I mentioned about is generally for a bulge bracket companies like JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. Wherein if you come on to smaller companies, say domestic companies, you can expect a fixed of around 10 to 15 with a bonus component.
Got it. Got it. Thanks a lot. I think that really helps. And I'm just going to quickly take one question from the audience, which
Yeah.
says, my takeaway is that networking and communication is key into the world of finance. So, I mean, see, honestly, networking and communication is something which will help you regardless of which industry or domain are you in. So it's not limited to finance, marketing, HR, ops, sales, consulting, strategy. Irrespective of which industry or company or sector or geography you are in, your ability to sort of network with the right set of people, have a growth mindset, and your ability to simplify. Communication is about simplifying, taking complex data and thoughts and structuring them into digestible, small pieces of information. How do you break down a problem? I think those are fundamental and will help you definitely. So I think this question was from Shubham. So Shubham, I hope that answers. And now coming to you, Zia, about the average ballparks in private equity, and also what are the top three private equity players? What is the average paycheck there, and what is the average paycheck for non-top three private equity players? I Yep. Can you all see and hear Zia, or is it only me? Okay, got it. So we'll just no problem, Zia. We'll get back to you. Can we move to Srinidhi, and can we hear from you? Venture capital, same question. Average ballpark salary plus plus bonuses. What are the top three venture capital firms? What are the paychecks there, and for non-top three?
Got it. So we've got like a hierarchy of venture capital funds, again, similar like how Anil explained. So we've got your extremely large funds. This includes your Sequoia, you've got Elevation, Matrix, and you've got Axel. So maybe 4, 5, I can put in 4, 5 other names, but maybe 10 of these guys. And the ballpark here will be anywhere, at least for like a starter and an analyst, will be like a 45 to a 60 lakh package, plus like a bonus of 100%. And this is, of course, these are your topmost VC funds. Now you have your mid VC funds like Pravega. You've got multiple others, 314, you've got Way Ventures. There again, lots of VC funds exist that are your mid-level. So basically funds who have raised anywhere up to like $200, $300 million. Anything above that is a larger fund. So your mid-sized funds will pay you anywhere from a north of, I've seen, I think the lowest base here being like a 16, and a 16 to a north of 24, 25 maybe, plus again, 100% bonus. And I think, of course, 100% bonus is very much achievable in a VC fund. And then you've got your lower tier funds who are either your angel lists. They're not even lower tiers. I think they're funds who are either non-funds or they're HNI investments, or they're extremely tiny funds who've just started in the first year of the investments. They'll give you anywhere between like a 13, it starts at a 13, and maybe you can go up to like a 20, 21. And again, maybe 50-ish% of bonus.
Got it. Excellent. Thanks a lot. And before I sort of move on to Anirudh, Srinidhi, another follow-up question for you on this is that you rightly mentioned you mentioned angel list, or you mentioned some niche venture capital, or forget venture capital, some niche funds or family offices which have gotten into the business of venturing capital, right?
Right.
So how do you distinguish yourself from being, so Aditya Birla has one of those. I think every large company has one of those VC arms. And the agenda is everybody wants a piece of the startup ecosystem, and everyone's willing to bet. I'm not saying there's more liquidity in the market, but your appetite to have a higher risk on your books has fundamentally gone up. So people are seeking instant gratification, so they want like quick money, and they want they want to get into the valuation game. And when you see that so people often say that when you exit, you're at your lowest valuation. When you raise funds, you're at the highest valuation. And that's what's happening in the venture capital space. And be it SoftBank, be it your Tiger Global, they've been mentioning that these are the number of funds that we have which have invested in so many companies, and they're failing every single year, right? I'm not going to use the word NPA because NPA is more of a lending, debt cycle. On the equity side, it's just value. So how do you differentiate between a venture capital fund and a non-venture capital fund, but essentially doing the same thing? And if you were to give one recommendation to the students on the panel today, that they want to get into VC, would you recommend that they target top 3, 5, 10 funds which are globally well known? And they've got investment funds which invest in great companies, vis-a-vis a family office or a small, a niche boutique VC fund. What is your recommendation?
All right. So firstly, first I will try to explain the difference between like a family office and like a fund itself, right? A fund is a fund when they raise money from others. And a family office basically utilizes their business's money into investing into startups. That's the difference between like a family office with a fund. But a family office, this is an additional revenue. They usually also invest in startups that are horizontal to them, so that they can eventually go down and acquire these companies on the long term, right? So a fund ideally only invests for a growth potential. Like Manaraj very well stated, right, that the valuation game is absolutely crazy in this industry. People are overvalued and you still don't know it. And I think that is severely dropped down. Investments have halved since what it was in 2021. I think we saw a very huge peak in 2020 and 2021 because of the whole COVID wave, and a lot of investments went through. So was the valuation. Prices were extremely jacked, and we're not seeing that in the industry anymore. Of course, you've got your big players like your larger funds who are still bullying in, getting stuff at like a larger valuation, and you can never help it. You're always going to leverage the capital that you have. The question about whether to go to a family office or like a larger fund or a sector niche fund. So there are funds that are also focusing on particular sectors, right? Like even Pravega, it's a very fintech focused fund. And usually all your mid-sized funds are very sector focused and your larger funds are sector agnostic. And then you've got your family offices who are also more sector focused. I think it comes with your interest. So if you have like an interest in a vertical, I would definitely suggest. So if you look at some consumer products and you think that, hey, I can make like great investments here, or if you're interested in that vertical, I would suggest you find a fund that focuses on that vertical. So if you do come with a space where you think that this vertical is great and you have like a lot of research, and if you are interested in building or, interested in investment in that vertical, then I would suggest finding VCs that will focus on particular verticals, which are your mid-sized VCs. Family offices will definitely, again, like I have like a lot of friends in family offices. Family offices will never hold you accountable to just like a VC role. It'll always be like a mix of public market and a VC role. It'll be a good balance of like maybe 30, 70 of sorts. And if you're interested in public markets with a little bit of private markets, maybe go into like a family office. VC, mid-sized VCs, if you want to get into a particular vertical specific of sorts, then I would suggest a mid-sized VC. For a large VC fund, I think it is definitely a little harder to get into a large VC fund, and you need to have an expertise in. So there'll be like a very quick switch, and you need to have that adaptability. You'll be switching from finance to consumer to an NBFC to another deep tech vertical, and you need to have that adaptability as well as an extensive reach of knowledge and understanding if you do want to get into like an extremely large size fund.
Got it. I think that's a very granular answer, and thank you so much for that. So coming to you, Anirudh, and guys in the audience, we'll take questions. Like we'll take a 5-minute break where we'll answer all your questions from the chat before we foray into the next segment. So sorry, Anirudh, from you.
Thanks, Manoj. I think the MBB, the consulting as a whole, I think I explained the layers initially. I'll just reiterate that you have the MBB firms, who are the big three, the McKinsey, BCG, and Bain, and then you have the big four firms who also have strategic consulting arms, and then you have boutique consulting firms. In terms of pay, unlike a PE or an IB role where your variable could be, or even BC for that matter, the variable is maybe 50 to 100%. Consulting variable pay is roughly around 10 to 20% at max, right? At least at the lower levels as we get into it. Maybe when you make partner or at a slightly senior level, it does get a very high chunk of variable pay, right? So I would say the starting is roughly around 18 to 20 lakh on an average, could be maybe 18 to 22 at an MBB firm, with I would say 10% of it being variable. And then the growth here is kind of steep, where your fixed pay that you see over maybe the next 3-4 years in a consulting role could 2x or 2.5x itself. So you have a really steep pay scale that goes up on a fixed basis in an MBB firm. When it comes to Big Four, I would say like you might have heard of EY Parthenon, Strategy and so on. All of them pay along the ranges. Again, I could be wrong. These are numbers from maybe a couple of years back. But consulting, these arms pay anywhere between 12 to 15, 12 to 16 on an average, with the fixed and variable components being interchangeably done. But consulting, while the entry is not as higher on the higher scale that maybe a PE or an IB role does, what you have, I've personally seen that the growth in the first 5 years of your career is pretty steep in terms of pay at least. That's largely anything pay related, but happy to deep dive further.
Got it. Thanks a lot, Anirudh. I think that gives the audience a lot of clarity that, what are their financial aspirations from their first job, and it helps them, put that into perspective. Zia, can we hear from you?
Hey, sorry, I had some issues with my internet earlier. So, talking about the pay in this industry, so I can bucket this into two parts, right? One is global funds, uh, like like CVC is a global fund. There's Blackstone, Warburg, Carlyle, TPG, TA Associates, GA. Every one of these are like global funds, and then there are domestic funds. Right? These domestic funds raise capital from India and they deploy in India. And these would include your funds like Multiples, Kedara, Samara Capital, this Upfoot, this True North. So a lot of these funds, which have been set up by people who used to work in some global fund and then they decided to set up their own funds. So just the first question is whether you can get into these PE funds as a CA fresher. The answer is very unlikely. Like it's not impossible because I just met a guy in Joshua Capital. This is like a fund which was set up by I think a partner from TA Associates or something, TA or TPG, I can't remember. So he got into the PE fund right after his chartered accountancy, right? So I think that's the only case that I've at least met. So it's very difficult to get into these roles. And then even if you get into the roles, I don't think I know anyone in the global funds who has directly joined after CA, right? Because these guys are hired either from IBs or from consulting firm or maybe from some domestic funds, right? So very difficult. I'm talking about the domestic funds. So you can get into it, very unlikely, but still you can get into it. And if I talk about the pay ranges, so for a domestic fund, like I'll be very honest that I'm not 100% sure because I have not talked to a lot of people and asked their salaries, but I would say it's somewhere in the ballpark of 20 to 30 lakh rupees, I would say, maybe 20 to 25, something like that. And then if you talk about the global funds, it will be in the ballpark of say 30 to 40 lakh rupees, can go as high as say 50 lakh rupees maybe. So I think those are the salary ranges. And then there's a huge variable. Now, unlike IB, where the variable depends on whether you do any deals or not, close any deals or not, in PE funds, usually at an analyst level, at the entry level, your variable pay is not dependent more upon how the fund has been doing, but more on how your performance has been. So it can be somewhere from say 50% to 80% to 100% to like I've heard people getting 250% in a fund because the performance was very good. But I would say the median of all of this would be like 80 to 100% is what you can expect as a variable pay. And yeah, I think that'll help answer some questions, but I can deep dive into any other questions you might have.
Sounds good. I think, thank you. And I think that really gives the audience clarity in terms of, what are the paychecks that they can expect if, they start out as CA freshers in various categories of PE funds. So thank you for that answer, Zia. So coming back to all of you real quick, how would you define your typical day? So starting with uh, Henil and then Srinidhi, Anirudh, and then coming to you, Zia. What is your typical day at your organization and the role that you were a part of? So the audience by now is, well acquainted to all of you. They understand what you're doing and they understand your organization. They know a little bit more about what PIB, VC is. They also know a little bit about allied industries such as corporate banking, commercial banking. So at this stage, if you could, just walk them through your typical day, what are the various kind of activities or a typical week, because I understand there might be things you might do today which you may not tomorrow, but a typical week will essentially be replicated on a continuous basis. So what is your typical day, Henil?
Yes, so here being at Ambit, my role is not only dependent on deal closure, but also sourcing a deal. So you should also have some ability to source a deal, identify where there might be opportunities for a deal. So basically, say we use some software like VCCH, wherein you get financial database of companies and evaluating companies' financials, identifying the proper companies which are ready for private equity funding or maybe say a sell-off while identifying the promoter rate. So identifying those companies is one of the major things which happens in a normal day-to-day extra year. Secondly, if you get a mandate from a player that he wants to go ahead with you, then you might have to prepare PowerPoint presentations for that company. You will have to prepare Excel financial modeling for that company. You will have to prepare pitch decks and present it in front of private equity funds and investors. Maybe the presentation part is normally done by senior level people, and like if you gain experience after say 2 3 years, you will definitely get a chance to do that. But right now, at your point, you'll be more into preparing the IM, preparing the model, reaching out to investors. So basically, say there's a company who wants to sell off its division. So you might be responsible for identifying the list of buyers, which might be into the same industry and would be interested to purchase that company. So identification of companies, reaching out to those companies using your connect, using the LinkedIn, using some software which the company has. So that is something which you do on a day-to-day basis. Plus, there is one extra thing, which is a self-development skill, which I would think. So basically, there are some being an investment banker, you should be spot on with the valuations of the company in the sector in which you work. So, basic example for if you work in the BFSI space, you should be aware about the multiples at which, say, HDFC Bank or Yes Bank is trading, or say RBL Bank is trading. So you should be spot on with those numbers. So basically, we weekly update all the multiples of those companies using computerized software like Bloomberg, like Thomson. You use those softwares, it automatically updates all the databases, and you get some average or median multiples, which you should keep in mind while meeting new people. So broadly summarizing all those aspects, you generally need PowerPoint presentations. You generally work on financials, databases of companies. You generally work on Excel modeling, and you identify buyers, identify sellers, or you work on updating those transaction multiples, trading multiples, and like, updating yourself with the recent news which come out in the market. Say, for example, there are some softwares which help us give recent news. So there is Merger Market. This is a software which helps you identify, say, Ola Electric wants to go for an IPO, say 1 or 2 year down the line. Then you need to communicate it to your manager and like make a pitch deck to that company so that you win that mandate, you get that mandate. So normally whenever there's a IPO, there are 2 to 3 investment banks which are generally involved. Majorly being ICICI Securities, Axis Securities. Those are the 1 or 2 banks which are generally involved. You pitch out to those companies and say why Ambit as an investment bank would add value to your IPO fundraise. So Ambit has a good network of investor reach outs. Ambit will help you attain say X amount of valuation, and it will also not only help you in your IPO, it will also help you get a pre-IPO fundraise for your company. So those all are the aspects wherein you spend your say a day or a week.
Got it. Got it. So thanks a lot. I think that really helps everyone. Srinidhi, yeah. So if we could just quickly hear from you, and also, from you, we'd like to hear that if there's one takeaway that you want all the CA freshers to have, so what is it that, Srinidhi, you would recommend for them if they want to get into VC? And it could be similar to your journey. It could be something unique that, it could be pertaining to a resume or a GD or a PI. It could be pertaining to industry landscaping or macroeconomic scenarios and understanding them. It could be about just being abreast with news and understanding what's happening in the market. It could be understanding the deal pipeline. So what is your one key takeaway or recommendation that you want to give the members of the audience after you answer your typical day or typical week at your VC firm?
Okay, okay, fine. I'll start with the typical week, right? So how it works is I will try to go. So I talk to at least 10 startups a week, and that's the minimum. I need to have like conversations. This is base level conversations. The process is that I'll have maybe conversations with these 10 startups. I will filter out what I find interesting. Then this goes on to my partners. They will decide now what is interesting after this. So the process is that once we find a startup interesting, the space that they're in, you go into like an in-depth dive into a research, right? So then you try to find out who else is building in the same space. You try to get a call with them also. Try to find out different models that can be built out in the similar, even like a small thing, right? If there's an EV financing, electric vehicle financing, trying to find out all the different models that exist right now. You try to have conversations with your industry peers and what they are thinking about the space. So a lot of my, I think, job on a weekly basis is that first you talk to a lot of startups. Second is you have a lot of conversations with either other VC funds or industry players like banks, NBFCs, anybody who is entrenched in the space, right? Then the second thing that we do is a due diligence. We do like an internal due diligence. I do a lot of customer calls. I try to find out what exactly makes this company stand apart. And usually this is a lot of feet on street. I travel a lot for like doing these customer calls, trying to identify what exactly is going on about this. And then you do a lot of back end work to try to find out how large the space is. So it's usually like this 5, 6 methods that I think 5, 6 things that we do like on a weekly basis. If there is a company that I like, let's just take an example, right? EV financing. If there's a company that I like in EV financing, then we first do like due diligence calls. We'll talk to like people who've taken this financing model. Then we will go ahead and then we will try to find out. We'll do everything. I will know everything about the business, everything from who he's talking to, who are his dealers, who's your financer. We will even talk to his financers. We do a background verification on the founder itself. And then you go in ahead and try to find out how large the market is. How many EV vehicles do you think will sell over the next 10 years? And how many of this can be financed by this guy? What is the opportunity? So I think it definitely is spaced out, but I do like clearly it's visible that I do talk a lot to a lot of people. I think that's a lot of the job is trying to understand from other people. One thing that comes out of the whole VC space is you have to come from a point of view that you know nothing and you gather as much as information as possible and then try to drive your own conclusion.
Got it. Got it. Excellent. I think, Anirudh, before I come to you, I'll just quickly hear from Zia. I believe Srinidhi and Zia have another commitment at 12:30. But I will request Anirudh and Henil to stay back for 5, 10 more minutes after 12:30 as well. So Zia, coming to you.
Thanks a lot, Manraj. So a typical day in a PE fund, I think it's very similar to what Srinidhi talked about in VC funds. It's slightly different in the sense that you look at an asset yourself, you try to understand what the company does. So typically, okay, so let's break my day into two parts, right? There's one part where you uh, identify assets, evaluate them, see if you want to diligence them further or not. And then there's a second half where you have to work on your portfolio companies also. Like you already have a few investments in India, so you need to make sure that those are running fine. If you need any intervention, there are few reportings internally that you have to do for those portfolio companies. If there's a problem, how do you solve it? Like, do you get consultants and do you do it yourself? If there's a CEO hiring, there's a CFO hiring, you have to be a part of that. So all of that goes into the portfolio side, right? And then there's a deal front, right? So on the deal front, there are stages of evaluating a deal. First, a deal comes to you either through a banker or from your own personal relationships. You talk to the management. You have like 3, 4 hour sessions with the management. They explain you the business. There are IMs, like Henel said, right? They make IMs. They make models. So these models actually flow to the PE funds that the bankers identify might be interested in. You look at you look at the models, you form a preliminary view whether you even want to look at the asset or not. I think that's the first phase. Then you enter the second phase. If you are interested in the asset, then you get advisors on board. Mostly there are like 3, 4 advisors at least on any deal that you're looking at. There are financial advisors like the big four. Then there are commercial advisors. These can be other big four, these can be NBB funds, or these can be like the boutique firms, depending on what asset you're looking at. Then there are technical advisors if required. If let's say the asset has involves some technicalities. For example, we have Sajjan, right? So Sajjan is a chemicals business. You you need some people who understand chemicals for this business. So then there are technical advisors. Then there are legal advisors. Then there are forensic advisors. So all of this army of advisors will then go after the asset, and the typical role that I'll have in all of this is I'll have to manage the advisors. I'll have to look at their reports. What the like you define the scope. You see what work they are doing. You have regular check-ins with them, and it's not that I'll be holding on to all say 5 billion streams. We just split the work amongst ourselves. At max, I'll get like 2 or 3 diligence streams. You keep working with the advisors. You make sure that there's no red flags. So what we generally like to do is we have a point of view on the asset quality. Now we are looking for red flags, whether whatever the management is telling us makes sense or not, whether there's something that is off, right? So for example, let's say if in the FTD we come to understand the reversal, or they were charging something higher from the clients, and now the clients might have a few years where they'll pay you lesser because they've paid higher upfront, something like that, right? So we're looking for those indications in the FDD. And similarly, CDD, we are just looking for more like red flags if there are any, right? So that is the key diligence phase. It lasts for like 1 or 2 months, where it's very high intense work. And I think that's what a typical day in a PE fund would look like to you. And you have
Got
to
it.
manage the portfolio company in parallel.
Right, right. Excellent. Thanks a lot, Zia, for that
Yeah.
granular answer. So, Srinidhi and Zia, on behalf of the members of the audience, I'd like to take a moment to quickly place on record our sincere appreciation for all the guidance and everything that, all the points that you've been able to walk us through. So, thanks a lot, Srinidhi and Zia, for sharing your experience, your journey as a CA into VC and, into IBP and all sort of fields. So, thank you so much. And we would love to be in conversation with you another time. I would request Anirudh and Henil to stay back if they can for another 5-10 minutes.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Srinidhi.
Thanks, Manoj. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
So yes, Anirudh, coming back to you. Your
Absolutely.
typical day or week.
I mean, so I think people know this quite a bit. Consultants end up traveling. I think the most out of everybody who's turned up today, I think I've probably taken 60 to 70 flights at least on the minimum last year, constantly flitting between locations. So typically, you either have two modes of working. Your typical home office. I'm based out of Bangalore, so I either go to the main Bangalore office to work out of, or my client's office, which earlier was in Delhi, and further then came to Chennai. So I would fly in on Monday mornings, fly back on Thursday evenings, and Fridays are typically in office, right? And you will see this generally happening for all consulting firms. You end up flying a lot every single week, every single year, for that matter. A typical day, at least, so a lot of, I mean, consulting firms are hinged upon ensuring that your weekends are protected. I mean, to the largest extent possible, which means that I crunch every work that I do between Monday to Friday. We typically try closing by Friday, 6 p.m., 7 p.m., which means my Saturday, Sundays are completely mine, right? So between Friday 6 p.m. to Monday 10 a.m. is completely mine, and I come back on Monday. And this is what I've had at least in the last couple of years has been adhered to. Right? Um, so work-life balance, while the days get really crunched on a particular week, the weekend is all yours. So work-life balance, depending on how you probably define it, is present and could not be present as well. In a typical day, and consulting for that matter is super dynamic. Every single day is different. And like you mentioned, Manuraj, you have multiple problem statements that come through. You help structure them down, break them down into smaller aspects, and very simply put, a larger problem statement has multiple, let's say 10 sub statements within it. We tend to pick up one problem, one sub statement, maybe across 1 week or a couple of weeks, and break that down even further. So you have multiple work streams that come through. You typically start your day understanding what has to be done or what is the end output for a particular day, and ship it out to the client or to your senior manager. And then you move to the next aspect on the very next day. So like no days is actually the same, because you could be working on multiple problem statements across different aspects. For example, solving for cost on one, solving for go to market on the other, and the dynamism that comes through with this is very interesting. Personally speaking, I felt very off in the first 6 months of consulting because I couldn't garner how to deal with how dynamic things were. But after you reach, and I think it's a very steep learning curve again. Once you reach that stage, you understand that the dynamism really helps because you are a generalist at the end of the day. And for you to probably really crunch structured thinking into very short spans of time, consulting is helps you really develop on this one soft skill. So that's typically what we do. I probably can't put a finger and say that this is what I do day in, day out, because it's super dynamic, honestly.
Got it. Thanks. I think that's a very well put answer where the audience gets a flavor of what your typical day or week looks like, what are the kind of problems you're working on, and what are the logistical nuances of pursuing those problems from traveling to working long hours. So I think thanks a lot for that answer. The last couple of questions, and I'm starting to pick those from the chat box now. So a couple of people have a question that they've worked in tax or audit advisory during their articleship, and now they want to foray into IB or management consulting, or even PE or VC. So what are your recommendations? So maybe either if you could go for it, or both if you could go for it.
Yeah, Anirudh, I can take
Yeah,
this
go
one.
for it.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So basically, even I've done my articleship. So basically, I've done my articleship from Dhruva Advisors, which is a direct taxation firm, and I was only focusing on the corporate taxation part and tax audit, litigations, advisory, etc. In my articleship days for around 3 odd years. So basically, during my first year of articleship, only to answer one of the questions that was earlier there. So my first year of articleship, I was sure enough that I was handling M&A assignments, but just from a tax point of view. Like we were doing slum sales, we were doing demergers, we were doing mergers, we were like bringing two companies together, we were separating those companies, but just keeping in mind the tax leakage point of view. So I was more inclined towards the synergies and the value creation, which would actually arise wherein in a merger or a demerger or a slum sale, rather than just looking at from a 30% point of view, I wanted to look at from a 100% point of view. So there is where my interest came into the IT domain. And after doing my 3 years of articleship from taxation, I like during my articleship itself, I appeared for CFA level 1 and level 2, and that boosted myself for getting a good chance at a front end investment bank, a domestic front end investment bank, which is Ambit. Like I got into Ambit directly after clearing my final CA. No wonders, like they tried for somewhere around for some rankers or something, but I was lucky enough or fortunate enough to get through that opportunity. Some people don't get it directly after the articleship, but one route which I would suggest is very easy and very easy to accomplish for any person to get into an IT background is, say, after undertaking the articleship on audits for taxation, maybe go through an FDD role which is available in either of the big four, say EY, say PwC. They have very good FDD departments. Like they have financial due diligences departments, and a half year or a 1 year experience at those stages would help a lot to get directly into front end investment. So yeah, that's about it.
Got it. Got it. So, Anirudh, I'm going to hold you on to another question, which is
Okay.
again from the audience, and I'm going to mix it up a little bit because it's an allied school of thought. What is the typical profile of a MBB candidate, and how do I mean by that? Do they come from a CA, CFA, CPA, ACCA background, or MBAs, or engineers from your IITs? So when you work, does your typical day at Bain involve interacting more with people from IIM, ABC, ISB, or is it more if chartered accountants, CFAs, CPAs? And subsequently, what is it that CAs can do to solidify their stance to get into these industries?
Gaurav, I'll actually take this in two parts, Manuraj. I think the first one is who do I interact with, who do I work with, and how is the typical composition, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm looking from a Bain perspective, and it's definitely similar across the other couple of firms as well. I would say out of 100 people in the org, 80 of them are engineers, roughly, right? You probably have 10 of them who are CAs and 10 of them who have an arts background and so on. CAs generally, and CAs do join at the same level that a person from an IIT Madras, Bombay, or Delhi join in as well, which is considered at the same undergrad level. People who join in from B schools join it at 1 year senior. So, for example, if I've joined as an associate 1, they come in as an associate 2. Very simply put, right? And every team that I'm a part of has a mix of everybody. So it's not like CAs are hired for any specific role within a consulting firm. You are just another generalist in the pool, and you work across multiple sectors as well. For example, the team that I'm working with, or I have been working with the last year and a half, has people from IIT Bombay, IIM Bangalore, ISB, a couple of people who come from Ashoka as well. Right? So there are multiple different sets of places where consulting firms hire from, and all of them, irrespective of their background, are in the same consulting staffing pool, and get staffed onto projects. So on a typical day, my interaction with maybe the number of CAs, because of the sheer number, like it's super less, is limited. I end up interacting a lot more with engineers and B school grads for that matter. And I'm sorry, what was your second question again? I
The
probably
question was that given that the majority of people in the fraternity are,
right.
MBAs or probably engineers, how can CAs make their mark? Or what is your one
Sure,
takeaway from that? That, how did they get
got it.
into consulting?
So I think for consulting roles, it's super important again, like I mentioned, to have I would say a stellar profile. And what I mean by that is going to a regular college and not a correspondence or an open university degree does stand out. Again, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything and get people's expectations higher. But the reality is that you having gone to a regular college, for example, an SRCC or a Xavier's for that matter, really, really helps. The second one, outside of academics, MBBs definitely prefer rankers because it's one way of them shortlisting and probably filtering out profiles. But there definitely are people who are non-rankers as well. If you have a stellar college, you have great extracurriculars. For example, I work with someone who did grade 7 or grade 8 of Trinity College in music for keyboard and I think the guitar as well. So if you have someone who is definitely more inclined outside of academics, outside of college, that's a big tick as well. And in college, any positions of responsibility that you've done, handle cultural fest, done a lot of networking mixers, maybe attended CA students conferences from the Institute of from ICI as well. These really stand out, right? So a consulting profile and an ideal profile is made up of 4 parts: academics, your articleship for sure, industrial training is a bonus, your extracurriculars, and your POR or your positions of responsibility. All of these, in some sense, have an equal weightage. None of them probably I wouldn't over-index on any one aspect. And hence, the typical people who get into these will ideally tick all 4 buckets. It's very rare that you see someone who has only, I mean, I know people who've gotten a double rank, which means at intermediate and final, and have not even received a shortlist for the simple reason that they don't have anything outside of just academics. So aspects like these really, really matter.
Got it. Got it. I think that summarizes it really, really well, and it gives all the CAs in the audience to sort of understand that how could they build their resume and how could they position themselves to get into these coveted roles. So I think with that we can wrap up the session, but I will request everyone in the audience to stay back because I have some very interesting announcements for everybody to make. And I will also be personally taking each and every question of the audience members. So everyone in the audience, please stay back. But on behalf of the audience, I'd like to take a moment to really thank Anirudh and Henel for taking the precious time out on a Sunday and guiding everybody in the audience with their career journey. So thank you very much, Henel and Anirudh.
Thanks, Manraj. I mean, it's been a pleasure. I think we were of some help to understand how the different roles panned out. I'm sure that this is going to help a lot of people who probably had no idea. But even if this goes back with 1% of what each of these roles are, I think we've tried to help you out in some manner. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks a lot.
Yes. Thanks, Manoj. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks a lot, guys. So feel free to drop off Anirudh and Henel, and everyone in the audience, stay back. We have some interesting segment lined up for you. Right. So and Shub, feel free to stop the recording now. We'll just